It happened! Elon Musk just confirmed SpaceX's new laser weapons in space. SpaceX is set to launch a new batch of Starlink satellites, its first since June, that will feature new laser communication links that would transmit data to and from space. SpaceX begins 2022 with a bang. Elon Musk's rocket company carries out its first successful launch of the new year as it sends 49 Starlink satellites into orbit despite criticisms of clogging up space. 4. First laser-equipped Starlink batch. As part of its record-breaking launch, Space Exploration Technologies Corp. SpaceX launched 143 small satellites into orbit. Included in this payload were 10 of the company's own Starlink satellites that will provide internet connectivity to the polar regions of the Earth. SpaceX was granted authority to launch these satellites by the Federal Communications Commission (FCC) at the start of this month, as the company needed the body's permission to launch them with modified parameters that are part of its third modification request to change Starlink altitude and Earth station elevation angles. Following the launch, SpaceX CEO and Chief Engineer Mr. Elon Musk took to Twitter to reveal more details about the payload following questions from observers. According to Mr. Musk, the 10 satellites are SpaceX's first operational spacecraft that will employ laser beams to share data between them as they follow an experimental pair that the company launched last year for testing Starlink's satellite laser connectivity. 3. Satellites equipped with laser. The latest Starlink satellites launched on January 24th are equipped with laser links, and all Starlink satellites launched next year will be equipped with laser inter-satellite links, Elon Musk, SpaceX chief engineer, confirmed on Twitter. All satellites launched next year will have laser links. Only our polar satellites have lasers this year, and our V version 0.9, Musk tweeted. A Twitter user noticed a difference in a photo of the stack of 10 Starlink satellites deployed on Sunday's Transporter-1 rideshare mission and asked Musk if an object that looked like a black pipe was lasers, which he confirmed. Images of the 10 Starlinks sent to orbit yesterday were shared by SpaceX on its Twitter feed, and soon after, commentators asked Musk about the black appendages present at the end of the spacecraft, and whether they were intended to beam data between the spacecraft to overcome the complexities of communicating at polar latitudes. In response, the executive confirmed that the appendages were indeed lasers that would allow the Starlinks to share data between themselves. He then proceeded to provide more details about SpaceX's plans for launching laser-equipped Starlink satellites and stated that the lasers will ensure that no ground stations are required to provide internet access to remote regions. The 10 Starlink satellites launched Sunday were the first deployed to polar orbit in order to provide broadband service in Alaska and polar regions. Musk also tweeted that the laser links between the 10 satellites mean that no ground stations are needed over the poles. Laser communications transmit data via a light laser between two terminals and are more secure than radio frequency RF terminals, which can be jammed. This technology can also be helpful for low Earth orbit (LEO) constellations like Starlink because data can be transmitted between satellites in the same plane, which can lessen the burden on ground infrastructure. SpaceX has talked publicly in the past about targeting laser links for Starlink, which it is building to provide broadband internet from space. In September 2020, SpaceX reported it completed a test of 2 satellites in orbit equipped with inter-satellite links. With these space lasers, the Starlink satellites were able to transfer hundreds of gigabytes of data. Once the space lasers are fully deployed, Starlink will be one of the fastest options available to transfer data around the world, Kate Tice, Senior Program Reliability Engineer, said at the time. And in a July 2020 webcast with Via Satellite, Jonathan Hofeller, SpaceX's Vice President of Starlink and Commercial Sales, said the company was aggressively targeting inter-satellite links, but cost was a concern. We have to make sure it's cost-effective in order to provide it and implement it into the constellation. That's something we are attacking internally and aggressively, and it's something that we know will greatly enhance the system, both for consumers and enterprise customers, and our government customers as well, Hofeller said in July. 2. Advantages of this new technology. Laser links in SpaceX Starlink satellites allow faster data transmission from space. These lasers offer crosslinks between the satellites, which makes faster data transmission possible. Telecommunications expert Tim Farrar told UPI that these crosslinks would make the satellites bigger and heavier. citing this as the reason why there was a recent slowdown in Starlink launches. Starlink's continued expansion has been very rapid and much lauded, but its reliability has yet to be tested, Farrar added. He said the Starlink ground terminal's long-term reliability has yet to be determined and how the dishes will fare against such weather conditions such as rain, snow, or wind for months or years. For the uninitiated, SpaceX's current internet network requires 3 nodes to function. These are the user terminals, dishes, the satellites, and the Earth stations. The users communicate with the satellites, which then relay the data to the stations, which then proceed to communicate with internet servers. The presence of lasers on the satellites removes the need for these stations to an extent, as it enables the spacecraft to share data between them and cover a large distance in the process. SpaceX tested Starlinks with lasers last year, a fact that was revealed by the company during the livestream of its 11th Starlink launch, which took place on September 3, 2020. During the event, Senior Systems Certification Engineer at SpaceX Kate Tice revealed that, recently, as the Starlink team completed a test of 2 satellites in orbit that are equipped with our inter-satellite links, which we call space lasers. With these space lasers, the Starlink satellites were able to transfer hundreds of gigabytes of data. Once these space lasers are fully deployed, Starlink will be one of the fastest options to transmit data all over the world. SpaceX's chief has now confirmed that his company will launch more laser Starlinks in 2022. Judging by his words, it appears as if lasers are the only upgrades on the new satellites over their predecessors. According to plans that SpaceX has shared with the FCC, the company's Gen 2, second generation, will not only feature lasers, but also altitude changes among other upgrades. A portion of the text of its application narrative describing the new spacecraft to the Commission reads as follows. SpaceX is proposing its Gen 2 system of 30,000 NGSO satellites. More than 85% of this system will operate at very low altitudes below 400 kilometers, using 8 total orbital altitudes ranging from 328 kilometers to 614 kilometers. By operating at low and very low altitudes, the SpaceX Gen 2 system will enable smaller spot beams and greater satellite diversity. SpaceX has designed its system to achieve the following objectives. High capacity. Each initial Gen 2 satellite will have 3 times the data capacity of SpaceX's current satellites. And just as it has done with its first-generation system, SpaceX will continue to iteratively improve the satellites over the course of the multi-year deployment of the system, which will further increase capacity. High adaptability. The system leverages phased array technologies to dynamically steer a large pool of beams to focus capacity to meet consumer demand. Optical inter-satellite links, lasers, will permit flexible routing of traffic on orbit. Further, the constellation ensures that frequencies can be reused effectively across different satellites to enhance the flexibility, agility, capacity, and robustness of the overall system. True broadband services. The system will be able to provide high-throughput speeds with latencies under 50 milliseconds. Remote polar coverage. The network is designed to bring to remote and polar regions the same quality service that has been traditionally available only to urban customers. Low cost. SpaceX is designing the overall system from the ground up with cost-effectiveness and reliability in mind, from the design and manufacturing of the space and ground-based elements to the launch and deployment of the system using SpaceX launch services, development of the user terminals, and end-user subscription rates. The deployment comes as Starlink and its users' terminal continue to receive criticism from competitors for using up precious frequency bands, a use that they believe could serve better purposes and infringes on their own plans. SpaceX's goals for Starlink include not only bringing internet coverage to polar regions, but also providing funds for its Starship launch vehicle system and creating an internet network on Mars. 1. Expert warns about its major drawbacks. Expert notes significant issue that hampers Starlink service expansion. A key disadvantage facing Starlink users is that the dishes should have clear view of the entire sky. Because of this, there must be no nearby trees or buildings. Farrar said that this will be a significant issue in further rolling out Starlink. He added he could not see the point of cutting down trees just to be able to use the service. Starlink mentioned that the service is ideally suited for areas with unreliable or completely unavailable internet connectivity. Starlink added that it has unveiled a new square-shaped dish that is more durable than previously released terminals. SpaceX had advised customers to position their dishes to get a clear view of the sky. This is because the dishes need it to stay connected to the satellites moving overhead. Objects, such as tree branches, nearby buildings, or even roofs or poles, will block the connection, thereby causing service interruptions. It offers a smartphone app that should scan the sky and determine issues before users utilize the service. Starlink satellite services carries an initial startup cost of $499 for the hardware and connection. Subsequent charges are at $99 per month. SpaceX has previously launched 4 Starlink missions and 4 more missions that included the crewed Demo 2 flight in May 2020. Do let us know in the comments what you think about this upgrade in satellites. Thanks for watching.